Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host Armando Venditti, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. In this installment of albums that turned 50 in 2023, I'm going to be taking a look at Paul McCartney and Wings' third release, Band on the Run. Now, Band on the Run is Paul McCartney and Wings, second release of 1973. First being Red Rose Speedway with the single My Love. Unfortunately, Red Rose Speedway, even though it had My Love as a hit single, the reaction to it at the time was indifferent to mixed. So EMI had come up with the idea to put Paul McCartney's name out front of the name Wings to give the band more recognition, more exposure. Of course, Paul McCartney being in the Beatles, of course they were going to do that, right? To give it more exposure. And Paul McCartney acquiesced. I will say, though, that Paul McCartney has always looked at Wings as a proper band, its own entity, a collective. He didn't want to be considered to be up front. He wanted it to be a proper band, just like the Beatles were a proper band. He wanted everyone to contribute vocals and song ideas and full songs, to the projects that they were working on. So, that being said, after the release and tour of Red Rose Speedway, they began working on material that would be what would become songs for Band on the Run. However, during rehearsals, McCartney and lead guitarist Henry McCullough got into a disagreement, thereby causing McCullough to quit the band. And then a week later, Danny Sewell, the drummer, left the band as well. There's a kick to that. Unfortunately, it was on the night that before they were to leave to go to Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, to start recording the album. Now, a little bit about that. Paul McCartney wanted to record said album in an exotic location. He wanted somewhere outside of the UK. So he reached out to EMI to send him a list of recording studios, and he picked Lagos, Nigeria, which EMI had a studio there. So once they got to EMI studios in Nigeria, however, the studio proved to be, how can I put this, a disaster. The mics were not good. The console was mixing console, recording desk, was considered substandard. They only had one recording machine, but again, they persevered. They started recording. They also ran into a situation where one night, Paul and Linda McCartney were hijacked. They were held up at knife point and robbed of a bag of demo tapes and books of song lyrics that they were writing. So they had no song lyrics and no demo tapes to go by. So they had to basically start over again. So they eventually packed up and left Lagos, went back to England to continue recording what would become Band on the Run. Okay, talk about perseverance. You know what I mean? But from the very beginning, if I didn't mention this before, Linda McCartney has said in interviews that Paul McCartney was determined to keep pushing forward, even after Danny Sewell and Henry McCullough left the band. He wanted to persevere and keep going, and he did. So the album was preceded by a single that was not on the album called Hell on Wheels, released in October of 73. Capitol EMI in the US asked Paul McCartney if they could include Hell on Wheels on the album on the US version. It was never McCartney's intention to put Hell on Wheels on the album, but he acquiesced. So the album comes out to, at first, indifferent reaction to it, lukewarm response, but it quickly gained popularity and gained momentum with songs like the title track. You've got on side one, you've got Band on the Run, you've got Jet, you've got Let Me Roll It, sorry, last song on side one, and you also got Mrs. Vanderbilt on side one. Side two, first of all, side one is fantastic. That running order, amazing. You have on side two, you've got Mamonia, which is considered to be an Afro soul kind of a track. It was supposed to be considered as an A-side for a single, but then it got relegated to a B-side. You have No Words, which features Denny Lane on co-lead vocals. You have Picasso's Last Words, Drink to Me, which is a fantastic track. It features different tempos, different sections, very layered, very textured. And then you have 1985. Again, it's a fantastic album. You also have Tony Visconti contributing orchestral arrangements to the album. Tony Visconti at this point, I believe, only had worked with, of note, I'm sure I'm missing other artists, but T-Rex, Mark Bolan and T-Rex, he had worked with them. He would go on to work with, Visconti would go on to work with Thin Lizzy, David Bowie, etc. The album Band on the Run, as an album, is fully formed. It is. Even though, okay, McCartney's worked with the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper, fantastic album with the orchestral arrangements, etc. The dense, layered work on Sgt. Pepper and Revolver and Abbey Road. As a solo artist with his band, this album, as a third release credited to Paul McCartney and Wings, is a fantastic canvas. It's got to be said. It's very layered, a lot of orchestrated textures going on, especially on Band on the Run. It's a perfect canvas of music, is what I call it. There are other versions of the album on reissue. There's a 2-disc set, 2 vinyl disc set, a 4 CD set, of a 2 CD, 1 DVD set. So if you can get your hands on these reissues, please do so. They're great. They're great. I'm going to be looking at getting a box set of that if I can afford it myself. But they go for about $300 right now. So I'm going to have to sort of wait on that. But as an album of the early 70s, this album is one of the best. I'm not going to say the best, because 1973 was a year of releases that, in some cases, is unmatched. So hopefully you guys like this episode. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I've got coming up. I'm going to be doing more of these episodes of albums that turned 50 in 2023. I haven't decided how many yet, because there's a vast list, but I'm not going to do the entire list. I'm sorry. I don't have enough time in the day. So I hope you guys are having a great day and you're looking after yourselves and one another. And we will be talking to you very soon. Bye for now.